Welcome and hello. It's great to have you here for this guided meditation and Dharma talk. My name is Jonathan Foust, and I really appreciate you making the time to be here. We always have these thank yous before we launch in, so I'm just going to move right through these because this would not happen without the support of a lot of people. First of all, I'd like to thank our producers, to Glenn Harrison and Leo Gimo, for all they do technically to bring this to you right now. Thank you, guys. Thank you to our mindful movement teacher for today, Rita Moran, who so lovingly shows up to offer beautiful movement to help prepare you for meditation. And a big thank you to Ray Manioki and Tara Cassidy, who offer mindful dialogue after this session. The whole smorgasbord experience, 6:30 Eastern Standard mindful movement with Rita, 7:30 this meditation and talk, and then afterward you can join Ray and Tara. Those links, if you want to just check it out or join in, are on my Facebook page and on my website. Also, a big thank you to the Insight Meditation Community of Washington for hosting this, to my friends at the Unitarian Universalist Church in Arlington, Virginia, which has been the host of Monday Night Meditation and is kicking things off again, sadly without me present. Also, to let you know, we got a mailing list if you'd like to sign up. Monthly compendium of talks with my best photography for the month, and a weekly if you're interested. And finally, this is all offered freely. No one gets paid, so it all comes from donations. And it's a fantastic way to be able to share the practices with you. And if you ever feel inspired to chip in to make it happen, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. Well, the next thing is just to mention that I am leading a day-long retreat called Every Breath is Sacred. It's on April 19th. And it's a fantastic practice-focused day to give you some very specific techniques you can use that'll make a big difference in your meditation practice, but also just in managing stress, learning how to kick in the relaxation response, all that good stuff. I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope you can join us. It's April 19th is from 9:30 Eastern Standard Time till 4. So still gives you an afternoon where you'll feel rejuvenated and should fire you up for your practice and beyond. So feel free. Again, those links on my website, Facebook page, you can go through the Insight Meditation Community of Washington, which is going to be sponsoring this online retreat. Alrighty then. So with that being said, let's take a little bit of time to turn toward focusing inward and going a little bit into some of these introverted practices. So if you like, you can close your eyes. And sense, if you can, to immediately bring your attention to your breath. And notice where you feel your breath right now. On the inside, where do you feel it the most predominant? And I'd like to offer just a couple of suggestions. One is to sense what it's like to very gently lengthen the in-breath, just 1 second, a little bit longer. Lengthen the in-breath. And on the out-breath, let yourself relax. If you lengthen the in-breath just a little bit longer, and on the out-breath, imagine you could completely let go of all control of your breath. So the out-breath is kind of a falling away. And notice as you just sense the breath on each exhalation, is it possible to sensitize yourself to what it feels like on the inside? And just to sense what it's like with each out-breath, to just inquire what could relax or soften right now. So much of this practice is about relaxing and arriving. I'd like to mention just a few places where you might focus. If it's helpful, stay with the technique of relaxing on the out breath. Or if you like, just let that sort of fall away and bring all of your attention to the inside of your mouth. Notice if it's possible to relax your tongue. Let your tongue begin to fill your lower jaw. Is it possible to let this sense of relaxation to move into the root of your tongue, down into your throat? And can you sense from the inside out the volume of your lips? And explore now if it's possible to soften your jaw. You might just notice the gap between your upper teeth and lower teeth and let that gap widen a little bit. And sense if you can relax the kind of the masseter muscles right along the chomping muscles of the jaw. And notice now if it's possible to feel this deep relaxation happening in the inside of your mouth, and sense if you can feel that sense of relaxation spreading. The muscles of your face, the muscles around your eyes, the forehead and temples. Sensing the neck. You might notice as well what it's like now to bring all of your attention into the palms of your hands. And feel from the inside out the palms and the backs of the hands. Can you feel or imagine the space inside your thumbs? Can you feel or imagine the space between your thumbs and your forefingers? Can you feel or imagine the space between each of the fingers on both hands? And is it possible to sense this quality of deep relaxation and receptivity? And at the same time, a quality of alertness? You might again just notice where you feel the breath on the inside right now. And is it possible to bring a quality of deep relaxation to wherever you feel the breath the most predominant? It might be your belly, or the nostrils, or the movement of the belly in your chest. Exploring these two questions. How much more could you relax and feel right now? And is it possible to cultivate this sense of attentiveness? And as you sense this awareness of this next breath, can you get a sense of what it means to take the seat of the witness, to be the objective observer of what is happening right now? In these remaining few minutes, you might again explore what it's like to relax and soften. You might again feel the inside of the mouth, the tongue, the lips, re-relaxing and re-arriving. And sensing from the inside, the palms, the fingers and thumbs. Sensing again this quality of relaxation and receptivity, as well as a quality of alertness, of allowing. You might explore now this following question. Is there anything right now that could relax or soften or let go? Deeply relaxed and at the same time alert. You might again deepen your breath. With your eyes closed, let your head drift a little bit to the left and the right. Take some time to move and stretch in any way that feels really good for you. There's no rush, there's no hurry. Taking your time for your transition. And as you're ready, you can let your eyes open or feel free to remain with them closed. Welcome. My reading habits have really changed. I used to be a real book reader, and the truth is, I kind of read less. I get a lot more information online, and I kind of hate to say that I've kind of followed the human trend toward don't waste my time, give me the bullet points. And it's really interesting, even though I don't read books as much, it's really interesting to look at, I like to look at book titles and see what's out there. It reminds me of this, you probably heard this line. If someone goes into a bookstore and they say, could you direct me to the self-help section? And the clerk says, well, wouldn't that be defeating the purpose? It's interesting to see in book titles how they break the books down into steps to make it more attractive. You know, the 2 steps to success in real estate, the 3 questions for improving your relationships, the 4 agreements, the 5 levels of powerful leadership, the 7 laws of spiritual success. And my favorite, actually, I'm waiting for this book, 8 steps to manipulating people to your will. But I ran across a really interesting article recently. It's in Tricycle Magazine, written by Dale S. Wright, and it was entitled 4 Ideals to Guide Your Practice. These titles, they hook me. Oh, 4? Oh, only 4? I couldn't help myself. And I read the article, and I thought it was really interesting, and I thought I might riff on this short article, because I think there's some really good stuff in there. These great reminders of what it means to stay on the path, to remind ourselves of what's most important. So these 4 ideals are 4 suttas or sutras. Sutta is kind of the Pali word for these little succinct sayings. You may also hear it sometimes as sutra, which tends to come from the kind of yogic perspective. Kind of the classic suttas in the Buddhist tradition, they usually start with, thus I have heard, which implies it was heard directly from the Buddha and then committed to memory. And it's important to remember that the Buddha's teachings were all committed to memory and then sort of repeated in the oral tradition, and then not written down until hundreds of years after his passing. So this was, again, traditionally spoken at Prince Jetta's Grove, which was a community of over 1,000 monks who were gathered during the rainy season. Now, this is an important aspect of the practices at the Buddha's time, or at least the story of the practice at the Buddha's time. That during the rainy season, when it was possible to travel, everyone would gather together and practice together. And then after the rainy season, the monks were directed to go out and to practice and to bring the teachings, to other people. And it talks about what it means to follow the ideal of being a bodhisattva. Now, this is a whole other thing around, well, what exactly is a bodhisattva? And this is where the teachings get really, really interesting, because my understanding is the Buddha didn't teach specifically about the bodhisattva, that this was actually sort of like an add-on as the teachings were interpreted through other cultures. There's more a teaching about what's called the arahant. The arahant is someone who is awakened. But the bodhisattva is the aspiration of someone who's awakening, but also someone who is dedicated to serving as the practice of awakening. So here are a couple definitions, and there are lots of different definitions. One is, you are a bodhisattva if your goal is to wake up in life. There is the expression what's called bodhicitta, which is the aspiration of awakening both heart and mind. That's like full awakening of heart and mind. Another definition of a bodhisattva is, you are a bodhisattva if you are just an ordinary person who take up in your life the aspiration of awakening. Another one is those who have put off their full awakening in order to help others attain enlightenment. And there's a kind of this classic story of two people are lost in the desert. They're dying from hunger and thirst. And finally, they come to this high wall. On the other side, they can hear the sound of a waterfall and birds singing. Above, they can see the branches of a lush tree extending over the top of the wall. Its fruit looks delicious. One of them manages to climb over the wall and disappears down the other side. The other, instead, returns to the desert to help other lost travelers find their way to the oasis. That's a bodhisattva. It's a fascinating aspect of practice and a fascinating ideal, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But the web is so interesting, and I ran across this website where it's entitled 7 Signs You Are a Bodhisattva in the Making. So try this on. Do you feel a strong calling to help, guide, and uplift others? You might be a bodhisattva. Sort of like you might be a redneck, but not as funny. Do you often feel an intense pain for the suffering of the planet, including plants, animals, and ecosystems, and the humanity at large? You might be a bodhisattva. Are you highly insensitive or an empath? You might be a bodhisattva. Does the path of heartfulness appear to you as being more appealing than the path of mindfulness? Do you have a strong affinity for the wounded healer archetype? Are you a generous and devotional person by nature? Well, and the final is, have you undergone some kind of spiritual awakening? So these are the qualities of a bodhisattva. Has your heart been touched? Do you feel a call to explore what it means to be of service to others? Just as there are so many different traditions and different expressions, there are different qualities that are cultivated. Here is one particular expression of what it means to be a bodhisattva. And this is interesting. You might even want to close your eyes, because it's just a really interesting one. This is sort of like the bodhisattva prayer. These words may not resonate for you, but it'll give you a sense of how one particular tradition expresses it. May I be a guard for those who need protection, a guide for those on the path, a boat, a raft, a bridge for those who wish to cross the flood. May I be a lamp in the darkness, a resting place for the weary, a healing medicine for all who are sick, a vase of plenty, a tree of miracles. And for the boundless multitudes of living beings, may I bring sustenance and awakening, enduring the earth and sky until all beings are freed from sorrow and all are awakened. Here's another kind of classic prayer. Beings are numberless. I vow to save them. Desires are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. The Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The way of awakening is unsurpassable. I vow to become it. If you like, you can open your eyes if they're closed. These are aspirations. They're huge. Beings are numberless. I vow to save them. I get exhausted just thinking about that. But the ideal here is, as you awaken, you have a capacity to be of service. And it's not about awakening first and then serving others. It's about the path of service as part of the path of awakening. So I'd like to talk about these 4 ideals, these 4 sutras that the Buddha shared. And they have to do about cultivating that aspiration for awakening, about cultivating spiritual friendships, about staying open and kind and practicing patience, and spending time in the wilderness, which has some interesting interpretations. So the first sutta or sutra is bodhisattvas should cultivate an aspiration for awakening as long as they live. Each of these suttas has as its tail as long as they live, meaning that this is a journey and it requires perseverance, and it's not a one and done necessarily. So as long as they live, an aspiration for awakening. I've told this story before about when Tara and I got married, like 17 years ago now. We took the occasion for our wedding vows to do an interpretation of the Bodhisattva vows. May whatever arise serve the awakening of heart and mind and be a benefit to all. May whatever arise serve the awakening of heart and mind and be a benefit to all. The first time I found myself kind of falling back on that aspiration was a time when I was really, really angry. I was going to use another word. I was really, really angry in our relationship, and I was justified, man. I had such a powerful case. And I found myself really cultivating that anger because it was just kind of juicy and fun. It was nice to be right. And then I remembered, oh, damn it. May whatever arise serve the awakening of heart and mind and be a benefit to all. Just that memory allowed me to sort of dispel the anger and get underneath it. And it was a very powerful remembrance. So it becomes a really interesting thing if you think about a time when you're stuck, a time when you are really caught or in self-righteous anger or whatever it may be, to really ask yourself, how can this serve the awakening of heart and mind? What do I need to learn here? What's the message here? A classic story I've shared is a men's group where they go around the circle and they share about their AFGO, A-F-G-O. I'll substitute one word. But as they go around, they'd say, well, my AFGO this week is ... AFGO is another freaking growth opportunity. And what if this life is really about learning about the nature of reality? What if everything that arises becomes an opportunity to really understand how reality works? About developing skillful means, about coming back to that aspiration to be fully awakened and to be present in service to others. It's one thing to have the aspiration. It's another to maintain it, to keep going. And that's where this tagline, for as long as you live, cultivate an aspiration for awakening for as long as you live. Diligence, perseverance. Remembering the most important thing. And for me, that language, the most important thing, is to remember that whatever arises, may it serve the awakening of heart and mind and be a benefit to all. It's not bad to remember that. But there's a particular concept that many of us have that a spiritual practitioner does it all alone. You know, the image of the yogini meditating in her cave, the monk who's sitting alone in his cell. And the truth is, while this is absolutely an inner journey, where you have to do some very, very deep introspection and deep mining to unwind the conditioning that holds you back from being fully awakened, fully alive, and fully free, it's absolutely a shared journey. And it's one thing to meditate in your cave. It's another to be in relationship with others and use relationships as a means of awakening. And this takes us to the second of these suttas. A bodhisattva should maintain spiritual friends as long as they live. Now that's a really interesting one. This is the second thing. Cultivate spiritual friendships for as long as you live. I know in my life how important that's been. When I was heading off to the Peace Corps before my 3-month training period, I kind of mustered up my courage and I said before one of the breaks, I meditate twice a day. Everyone who's interested in meditation, let's all meet in that corner. One guy. That's all I needed. He was my meditation partner through those years in the Peace Corps. I taught in the university in the capital city, and when he'd come into town, he'd stay with me. We'd talk about practice. We stayed inspired around our practice. When I was in high school, 2 guys were really into meditation, and we would meditate in the library before breakfast and dinner together. Another time when I was really struggling and feeling lost, I realized I need some spiritual friends packed in a little closer. And I created a little group where we would meditate and have a very simple dinner on Wednesday nights. 4 people. But that made all the difference. And this is the potency of spiritual friendship. I've told this story many times, but I, literally stumbled into an ashram for lunch, and I ended up staying for 24 years because here was a group of practitioners, a group of people who wanted to wake up. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. This whole idea of company is stronger than willpower is so true. If there's something you want, find other people who want that too. So much easier. And so part of the question here is, who is in your inner circle? What is the status of spiritual friendship in your life? Do you have people in your life who really want to wake up? People who will share their inspiration with you, their challenges with you. Are there those in your life where you can also explore your discoveries and your challenges, who will take it not as a way to offer you advice or try to fix you, but to take it as a quality of expressing your sincerity on your path? To me, just from my experience of being with lots of people, this is one of the most challenging aspects of a spiritual life. To find like-minded people, people that you can affiliate with. The kind of friendships that probe deeper than just the surface. As I like to say, it's maybe the most important thing, and for some, it's absolutely the hardest thing. Finding like-minded people and cultivating spiritual friendship is sometimes a real challenge. And I don't see it personally as a nice to. I kind of see it as a need to. When you look back over time, people have relied on each other to maintain a focus on what's most important. The classical line, as the Buddha said, is when you want to wake up, you're swimming upstream. 2,500 years ago, he said this before the internet. You're swimming not only against your own conditioning, but you're swimming against the conditioning of the culture. Culture is designed to have you look for happiness in all the wrong ways. So when you think back over the centuries and millennia of monasteries and ashrams, retreat centers, churches, synagogues, temples, mosques, they were set up as this refuge for like-minded people to practice together in order to wake up out of the trance of thought, the trance of separation. It's very, very difficult to practice on your own. So if you don't have Sangha, community, it's worth investing some time, as challenging as it is. It's kind of like dating. You got to get out there and find out what resonates. There are plenty of traditions out there that will tell you that theirs is the best, but my sense is you have to dig a lot of wells to find out the well that you're really, really called to find the community that you're really, really called to. It's so important. Thich Nhat Hanh said many years ago that the Buddha is the Sangha. Like awakening is through community. It's through our own hearts and our own connectivity that we wake up. So, can you find the kinds of people that you most want to be with? I've told this story so many times, but I read a Forbes magazine article that said, take your 5 best friends, average out their income is probably your income. And I thought I need new friends after I read that article. But the truth is you tend to resonate with the people you spend the most time with. So to cultivate that aspiration for awakening, to find other people who want it too, you will find it to dramatically enhance your practice. And then the next question is, how do you engage into the world? Which leads to the next sutra. Here's the sutra. A bodhisattva should practice patience, openness, and kindness for as long as they live. And this one's really fascinating to me. How do you live in the world as an aspirant, as a bodhisattva, as someone who is dedicated to waking up? Particularly now, we live in such a polarized culture. You see it everywhere. You see how some people are really stoking the culture wars as a way to collect people to their point of view. Find and demonize an enemy is a really cheap way to create community. How do you stay present? It's so intense. Every now and then when I'm on YouTube, I run across a road rage video or like a collection of them, and they're kind of terrifying to me. to see how quickly people kind of elevate to such a dangerous level of perceiving an enemy. And it's out there. We know it's out there. We see it all the time. But I also ran across this other guy. His name is Josh Nasser. He's on YouTube, and he's 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 a corny guy, a lot of dad jokes, but he just really gets off on like making people laugh and connecting with people when he's out in his car. So at stoplights, he'll start conversations with people in other cars. And I have to say, it's really heartwarming. Um, like, he'll just say, like, ask people if their windows are down, he'll start a conversation, with the other car, and he films it with his phone or something like that. But a couple in their car next to him, and he says, to the woman, he says, "Excuse me, miss, I was just wondering what it's like to date such a stud." And then you see him, they all light up and they laugh, and two older women, and he goes, "Excuse me, I'm having a problem. Wonder if you could help me." And they're like, "Oh yeah, well, what do you need?" And she goes, "I can't tell which of you is more beautiful." You see people light up. It's so cool. Guy in his convertible, and the guy says, "Excuse me, what does it feel like to look like an international spy?" Another couple in their car, he'll say, "Excuse me, how does it feel to be so unbelievably attractive?" There was one where he said, it was another couple in the car, and he goes, like, "How does it feel to have such a beautiful sister?" And the kid says, "That's my mom." And he says, "Wow, she's young enough to be your sister." And you just see people light up. It's so sweet. Another guy who's kind of directing traffic on the side of the road, and he goes, "Excuse me," and the guy comes over. He goes, like, "Is it hard being so attractive?" And you see this guy light up, and he says, "No." So it's fascinating, and as corny and sort of a cringy as this guy is, it really speaks to this sense of what it means to be a well-wisher of all. What does it mean to have your cup full and overflowing? And that becomes a really interesting inquiry. In fact, you might just take a few moments, and we'll do a short little reflection here. You might close your eyes and just bring into mind a time when you felt full and overflowing. Just one of those moments, one of those periods where everything was just good. Nothing to add, nothing to take away. And can you sense this quality of your cup full and overflowing? Kind of this quality of being effortlessly kind, wishing people well. You might just take 3 breaths and just kind of breathe into that felt sense possibility. If you like, you can deepen your breath, open your eyes. This sutta, or this sutra, a bodhisattva should practice patience, openness, and kindness as long as they live. It points the way out of self-absorption and narcissism. That intention to cultivate openness, kindness, and patience truly is the way out. One of the most powerful ways to break out of the cycle of depression is to be of service to others. So this practice requires that you cultivate the state for patience, openness, and kindness. You can't make it happen. You have to cultivate the state. You have to look at the conditions the practices that help you to fill your cup. And somewhat ad nauseum, when people say meditation is so narcissistic, my response is, are you kidding me? It's exactly the opposite. In my sense, it's like the spiritual practice is all about filling your cup to overflowing. It's changing your state from a state of lack to a state of overflow. And the thing that gets overlooked for so many people, practicing patience, openness, and kindness, is really toward yourself. When you can bring that sense of patience, openness, and kindness to yourself, you are lubricating the whole system to wake up and to really be fully alive. And it really points to kind of beyond being kind to others is a quality of equanimity, which is really the real flowering of this practice. Equanimity, or that sense of steadiness, is considered the absolute flower. It's the full expression of this practice. And there's these amazing stories in the Buddha's time where he was threatened with personal violence. Instead of shutting down, he got more focused. He would turn toward the conflict, and he would appeal to others with compassion and concern for the well-being of everyone. And wow, can we do that? Can you do that? Can I do that? To turn toward the threat of violence and to appeal with compassion to the well-being of everyone, to cultivate calm and fearlessness and openness. It's an aspiration to cultivate patience, openness, and kindness for as long as you live. Now, it's easy to take this one on from a place of a sort of self-judgment and blame. But if you really look at what it means to stay open, there are all kinds of studies on compassion fatigue, on how hard it is to stay open. And we can't will ourselves. Again, we have to keep coming back to fill our cup personally. Now, the classic story of the hunter providing for his family, he brings back food for the table. He has to eat first until he's full. It's not about indulgence or narcissism. He's got to stay strong to keep going, to keep providing. And is it possible for you to fill your cups? You stay strong. You can stay perseverant. You can remember and focus on what's most important. It's such an incredible dance. This leads to the fourth and the final sutta or sutra here. A bodhisattva should spend some time dwelling in the wilderness for as long as they live. Now, why would this be on equal par with the other three suttas? Is it necessary to spend time in the wilderness? And I think this is a bit of a little bit confusing. But from what I understand, and this was pointed out in this article, that wilderness dwelling in the Buddha's time was really a synonym for meditation. That, again, they would come together in the rainy season and go out and practice. And when you look at some of the classic teachings, they talk about, find the root of a tree and sit. So wilderness, we could interpret as spending time in the internal practice of awakening, the wilderness of the mind. It has other implications, though. I like to think of wilderness as, you may know the phrase of the 40 days and nights in the desert. The Buddha spent 6 years in the wilderness, like deep in his practice. And throughout his life, he still took time of retreat. We all need our 40 days and nights in the desert, particularly when we feel lost. After being at the at Kripalu at the center where I lived for so many years, I needed some time away, and I took my part of my healing was a month-long retreat. So I had 30 days and nights in the wilderness. The question is, though, what is the 40 days and nights in the desert? What does that mean for you? How do you step back? What feeds you? What lights you up? If you want to wake up, you have to spend some time dwelling in the wilderness for as long as you live. Now, what I find really interesting about that, he's not saying an hour a day, twice a day for the rest of your life. The sutta is not saying you need to do 3-day-long retreats and 7-week-long retreats every year. That's up to you to figure out. Part of the feedback loop in the universe is when you're out of balance, you're going to suffer. You're going to feel stress. So it really requires that really deep inner listening. What do I need to come fully present to my ideal, my aspiration to be fully awake? Sometimes that's a daily practice. Sometimes that's stepping back. And I really find it interesting to look at not only the sense of the idea of meditation as a wilderness and the inner world of wilderness, but wilderness itself, the power of being in nature, the power of being with animals. Animals live in the alpha state. And when you hang out with an animal, you start to resonate with that animal, and you'll naturally become more present moment focused. And that's what the wilderness, that's what nature can do. I love this poem from Wendell Berry called The Peace of Wild Things. When despair grows in me and I wake up in the middle of the night at the least sound and fear of what my life and my children's life may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in its beauty on the water and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought or grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting for their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free. Where is your refuge? What naturally enlivens you and fills you up? That's really just such a juicy, juicy thing. There's an interesting element that, because I focus a lot on sleep, because it's been an issue for me. It's finding your natural chronotype. That is to say, when and it's a genetic thing, when you naturally go to bed, when you naturally wake up. And one of the ways that is suggested of how you find your chronotype is when you're on vacation, or if you were on a deserted island, when would you naturally go to bed? And it's such an interesting question because that's natural. It's moving into the natural state. So these 4 sutras, they really kind of have a call to action to them. They offer really powerful reflections. I thought we just might review these before we close. If you like, you can close your eyes. Just recalling this quality of the bodhisattva, the aspiration to be awake, and the aspiration to awake not only the mind itself, but the heart as well. Your capacity for compassion, empathy, kindness, and joy. The first sutta. A bodhisattva should cultivate an aspiration for awakening as long as they live. And can you sense inside that quality, that yearning, that aspiration to be awake, truly awake, to be free from suffering, to be truly and deeply happy? The second, a bodhisattva should maintain spiritual friendships as long as they live. You might take a moment and reflect on those who have touched you and informed you on your path. Those perhaps you have inspired just through the radiance of your own practice. You might reflect on the state of your quality of spiritual friendship. Is it from a place of abundance? Do you feel a place of lack? What might fill your cup when it comes to spiritual friendships? The third sutta. A bodhisattva should practice patience, openness, and kindness as long as they live. And you might just sense these inner qualities of what it means to be patient with yourself and others, to be open to yourself and to your own unfolding, to be open to life. Your capacity for kindness for yourself and for others. And the fourth, a bodhisattva should spend some time dwelling in the wilderness as long as they live. And for you, what does the wilderness mean? What does it mean, this time of being with yourself, in meditation and reflection, to be in the spaces that cultivate a deep sense of presence where you can be informed and see more clearly into the nature of reality? You might gently deepen your breath. And if you like, if you haven't already, you might open your eyes. I hope you found this helpful. I just found it to be a really interesting reflection. What do I really, really want? Who around me can uplift and support me? Who can I support as we move forward in relationship with each other? And what do I need to be able to stay open to kindness and patience and kindness? And is it possible for me to build in time when I can step back from my life to truly be nourished and connected with reality once again? The reality of nature, and to live in accordance with nature, in accordance with reality. So thank you so much for your time and attention. I hope you found this helpful, and many, many blessings to you on this path of awakening both heart and mind. Happy, happy trails.